Hello, everyone, and welcome to this next session at the Venturepreneur Summit. We're going to be talking about VC and how to launch your VC fund. I'm super excited to be welcoming Stephanie Dorsey and Corey Jones here. They are both founding partners at E2JDJ, a venture capital firm that is investing in sustainable agri-food technology and science. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yes, thank you for inviting us.
Why don't both of you tell the audience a little bit about yourselves in case they're not familiar with you yet?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Stephanie. I come from California, grew up in an entrepreneurial family, have a professional background in the legal field, went to Harvard Law School, and most recently launched the firm with Corey this past year.
Yeah, and for myself, grew up in Louisiana and then started my career in President Obama's White House and then went the finance route. So went to Morgan Stanley to do investment banking on the healthcare tech side, Providence Equity to do growth equity investing, and then took a pit stop at Harvard Law School before finance, and that's where I met Stephanie.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit more about the fund. I'd love to learn more about what your thesis is and what you're looking to accomplish with the fund.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we're focused on sustainable food and ag tech and science. And for us, that means that we look through the value chain from production to consumption. So everything from crop efficiency technologies to alternative proteins, and everything that we look at has a lens of sustainability and nutrition. And for us, we really launched the fund in thinking about the intersections between food systems and health and the environment, and really the technologies that are moving us from the industrial age to the digital and biological one. And we're really excited about where the space is going. We're focused at the early stages, so seed to Series A, and really aim to be collaborative partners with founders. We know the early stages are the roughest, especially when you think about commercialization and sales and distribution. So we really do try to connect founders with the resources to really get to that next level of growth as well. And we're based out of New Orleans, but geographically agnostic. So our initial investments have been scattered across the US, primarily California, and also Berlin and Israel as well. So I'll pause there, but that's a little bit about us.
Awesome. How big are the check sizes that you usually write?
Yeah, so our average check size is $250K to $1 million.
Very cool. Can you talk about your investments a little bit, maybe some of the ones in the plant-based space specifically that you're excited about?
Yeah, I would say, one that we made coming out of Berlin, we were really excited about it. It's called Perfect. It's led by a great entrepreneur, Tanya. And what she's doing is leveraging AI to be able to find novel ingredients to plug into plant-based foods to replace the analog. And really thinking about it from the perspective of taking that analog and thinking about it molecularly, what causes it to have the applications that it does. So for example, she's starting with eggs, and eggs has around 70 applications. And so what she's been able to do is use the AI to think about what molecularly causes those 70 applications to happen, and how can she find novel ingredients to combine those novel ingredients to create the same reactions that would then draw out the same 70 applications. So she's doing really well, moving really fast. And so she's launching in the European market. It's first going to be a B2B product from the restaurant side, and then eventually going to expand out into retail.
And let's backtrack a bit. Like, what inspired you to launch this fund? I mean, you were working under Obama. Stephanie, you were in corporate law. What led you to kind of deciding to launch a venture fund?
Yeah, so, for myself, I always knew that I wanted to be in the food space. I come from a family of entrepreneurs in various industries, but also food. And so I kind of had that in my DNA. Did a lot of work with food startups. And for me, I knew that I wanted to ultimately be in that space, but took the traditional law path. So was at a corporate law firm in New York City. And then after that, decided to launch the firm. But prior to that, we did a lot of market mapping and deciding what we were interested in, but then also thinking about, for me, aligning my personal interests and also being vegan and really wanting to promote, the sustainable food space, but also particularly alternative protein and plant-based and cell-based and fermentation foods. And so really thinking about how to just align my interests with food and the environment and also health as well, and thinking about, the next generation brands that we could support that are actually promoting health, especially as consumers are more aware of, the harmful chemicals and other aspects of food that have been put forward for so long, and just the food system itself is not optimized for health. So really finding ways to be able to support founders in the space, also be a founder. I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit, and so building a firm where we could really set the thesis and understand the framework, but also have that operational experience to be able to help founders as well. I think we froze. I think we might be back.
Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but I think the screen went black. Let's see.
Okay, yeah. I see your headshot. Are you still there?
Yes, we're still there.
Got it.
We're trying out the camera. Maybe it's that.
Did it fall asleep?
I think so. For some reason, it's still showing a black screen.
You could log. I don't know what you're seeing. You could log out and come back in.
Okay.
Yes, let's do that.
Thanks for the patience, everyone. If you already have questions, you can already put them into the Q&A chat. So I have that to offer. But I hope Corey and Stephanie will be back shortly. If you're having a good time, show me some emojis. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, appreciate it. Thank you. I don't know any good jokes, unfortunately. Otherwise, this would be my moment. If anybody knows any jokes, wants to put them in the chat, I'll read them. Appropriate. They have to be appropriate. No? No jokes?
Scroll down.
Why did the chicken cross the road? Can you see us? Thank you, Hannah. All right, I see you moving.
Okay, perfect.
Stephanie, I don't see you because of the angle.
Okay.
I'm trying to get it to switch to the
conference. Thank you, Kobe. Thank you to Please Cheese for sponsoring. Should have paid more attention in joke class if I had some jokes ready to go right now. If you want to use the other camera lens, the other camera, that would be fine too.
Let's see if we can do that.
All right, there we go.
Perfect.
Cool. All right, Corey, you were about to tell us what inspired you to go into raising a fund, given what you had done before.
Yeah, I would say for me, I've always lived a purposeful life and thinking about what I cared about and really, what I wanted to do with the talents that I had. And so, when I started in President Obama's White House, it was really me thinking about from politically, what I believed in and what he was really pushing forward. How could I go and really kind of change a lot of the things that I thought was going wrong with the country at that point? And, what I saw there was that I did need to advance in my career. And if I wanted to make a real impact on the world, I wanted to do it in a way that I was sort of more advanced in my career. And so that's when I went to Harvard Law School, but then kind of decided that, law school wasn't the thing for me. And that's when I really got exposed to impact investing. And so for me, it was, if I'm going to be a great impact investor, or if I'm going to think about that type of investing, then I need to go to Wall Street to kind of learn the mechanics of how finance worked, et cetera. And so that's why I went to Morgan Stanley and then stayed on the healthcare side because I come from a family that's in the healthcare business. And so seeing what healthcare did for people and also saw the bad sides of healthcare. But, proceeded down that path. And then at Providence, really, got to work with entrepreneurs and I love that part of the job. That was probably the best part about investing at the growth stages was working with companies and really thinking about, once we made those investments, how to work with those founders versus making those investments and sort of in the typical PE space, replacing those entrepreneurs. And so that's really what kicked it off for me. And then thinking about what I really cared about was, our food system and replacing animals from the food system and the material system. And then going into that was where it kind of meshed everything together for me.
So if I understood correctly, you're quite involved with your companies. What kind of support do you offer them after you invest?
Yeah, so for us, we identified that commercialization is particularly painful. So we wanted to really help with that. And how we do that, for food companies, is connections to retailers, food service partners, and other B2B opportunities. And for agriculture, it's more so connections to grower networks, as well as companies that are vertically integrated that are looking for upstream solutions, so that the founders can have those on the farm demos and also paid commercial pilots that are really important at those early stages.
I'm curious, what does your day-to-day look like?
Well, that's a rough question because I think for the most part it ranges, but it's a lot of Zoom calls, as you could imagine. So, for us, it's, portfolio. It's also thinking about the founders that we talk to outside of our portfolio, our partners, our VC partners, RLPs. And so it really ranges. But I would say the majority of the day are conversations. And then after that, it's, back office work and research. So I would say it's as busy as we were when we were both for Corey, the PE firm, and for me at the law firm.
And I'm curious, how do you do your due diligence? Do you have an in-house team that does that, or do you work with consultants?
Yeah, so for us, we've actually built a scientific advisory board that helps us in sort of that due diligence process. So we conduct the due diligence process for the majority of the process. And, it goes into, the sector as well as the company and the innovation angle, thinking about the team and the market, et cetera. And then for those truly deep tech companies, and deep science companies, we tap our scientific advisors who are experts in the space. And so, they come from a range of different universities and have a plethora of different opportunity of experience in the space, from spinning out companies or taking those companies public, et cetera. And so they have a really good grasp on, how these companies should operate, the technology, the science, et cetera. And then they perform sort of their diligence, and then we do that in concert with one another and come to a decision together. And so it's very exciting to work with them as well.
Got it. And what are you looking for when you are investing in companies or founders? Are there specific traits or a certain market size? What is your process?
Yeah, so we've already identified the market for us. So really thinking about food and ag, and then particular subsegments in there that we're focused on. So the great thing is that because our thesis is pretty clear, we do sort of have founders who already fit the criteria before we go to that next step. And then after that, we really think about the founding team. And so thinking about whether they have those complementary skill sets, and thinking about also, the founder himself or herself, and whether, they have that passion, and really thinking about sort of just having that vision for the future and what they know that sort of no one else knows that they're, executing on. And then also expertise, and it could be domain expertise, or it could be just experience in the space. And then lastly, just, their grit and ability to really execute during hard times, and really having that sort of push and sort of, drive to really get forward and push through when times are really challenging, and having a healthy disregard for them possible, and really being able to do something that's never done before. So it's something that's not really, formulaic. It's something you have to really get to know the founder on before you proceed. But it's something that you can really suss out and figure out whether it's a good fit for, the firm, and then also sort of the type of founder that jives with our firm as well.
Are you seeing a specific area of the world that is pumping out a lot of innovation that excites you? Maybe a region?
Yeah, so for us, we are a global firm, and so we look everywhere, all over the globe for these technologies and sciences. And for us, where we've seen a lot of the innovation coming out of is obviously the U.S. And I would say, scattered across the U.S. from California all the way to the East Coast to the Southern Coast. We've also seen a lot coming out of Israel. And then we've seen a lot coming out of the European market as well. And so I would say, they're a little bit different depending on where they're coming out. So for the US, you more see independent companies springing up. In the UK and the Israeli market, you more see spin-outs from universities. And then we're also really, really engaged in the Asian market and the LATAM market as well, seeing really interesting technologies. And it's actually interesting, too, that you actually see technologies and sciences coming out of different parts of the world, and you see different regions focused on different parts of the plant-based space. And so the European market, you tend to see more technologies that are more focused in different areas that those consumers are more worried about, versus the Israeli market versus the Asian market.
Got it. How do we ensure that marginalized communities and people have a say in our food future? How do we ensure that enough money is flowing to those communities and into those founders?
Yeah, I think it's, a network, and sort of really connecting with folks in an inclusive way. I think that's the approach, and really thinking about, how can you go to areas that are less traditionally trafficked by VC? How can you get plugged into those ecosystems, whether it be HBCUs or other organizations? And then also thinking about how can you hire folks in the STEM community from those spaces, when you think about deep tech, because it's an area that's very underrepresented, or just thinking about food and ag more generally. So thinking about it from not only the founder side and how you could support founders, but then also how you're building out the team. And from there, really sort of building a platform for folks to really go out and either do their own thing or continue to be in the space. So I really think it's just, getting to areas that are not sort of the, Silicon Valleys of the world, but even the South, you see a burgeoning ecosystem here, and other areas that are, sort of overlooked.
Yeah, and I would say, it's part of our thesis to really think about localized plant-based foods and localized other food products, because if you think about sort of the plant-based movement, you've seen that plant-based foods in Asia are going to look very different from plant-based foods in America versus different parts of America as well. So, you have companies like barbecue that's creating plant-based barbecue. You have companies like the one that we invested in, E2JDJ, where she's creating comfort foods that really resonate with people from places that are over-indexing on turning vegan and vegetarian, but not having really those culturally representative foods put in the Whole Foods aisle or put in the Walmart aisles, etc. So for us, we're actually very bullish on those companies that understand their cultural relevance and their local market, and are producing plant-based foods that really sort of bring out the flavors and sort of what those people are used to eating and wanting to eat.
What's your time horizon in terms of investing? Are you thinking 5, 10, 15 years?
Yeah, so we have a 10-year life of our fund, and so really thinking about it from that horizon.
Got it. And what are you seeing for your fund? What's your vision? Are you hoping to open offices around the world? Are you looking to get into new markets? Are you looking to expand your thesis?
Yeah, I think, the thesis will definitely expand. I think sustainable food and ag, can touch on so many things when you think about the underlying technologies, AI, computer vision, and machine learning. everything is being applied to not only food, but when you think about materials and cosmetics, pharma, et cetera. So I do think, our underlying theme will remain the same of helping to build a more resilient food system, but I think it could really touch on different areas outside of, strictly food. So I really think, more upstream technologies, really thinking about those deeper tech plays, and obviously expanding our geographic footprint as much as we can, because there are so many key innovation hubs that we definitely want to be plugged into and really tap into.
Yeah, I would add, I'm glad Stephanie brought up the upstream investing as well, because, for us, we really do see that this is a turning point for us to be able to invest in and create an entirely new food and ag industry, and a reimagined one that gets rid of a lot of the patchwork problems that we've seen from sort of the creation of these solutions from the 18th century, and how can we replace them with 21st century solutions that we can really believe in and can really push us forward into centuries into the future. And so, I think it would be a missed opportunity if we don't continue to invest in technology and solutions that we know will be long lasting versus patchwork solutions that solve simple problems that we're going through right now. So I think right now, I think in the next 10 to 15, 20 years, we'll have a food system that, our descendants won't even recognize from what we went through.
I always like to remind people the American hamburger is only about 100 years old.
Yes.
Recent invention. So I'm curious. I don't know how to phrase this. Was it challenging to find investors in your fund, or is it challenging to get investors, traditional investors, I don't know who your investors are, to get excited about replacing or, creating a new food system? Is that a sexy value proposition, if you will?
Yeah, I would say, it wasn't hard for us in the sense that, we really built a network of individuals and family offices and institutions that really believed in our mission and also in our thesis. And they could see it proven out because we started making investments into these really great companies that were performing really well. And so once people start seeing sort of the evidence of your thesis being proven out, it really does sort of build upon itself, et cetera. And I think no one now doesn't agree that we're going through a cataclysmic problem where we have to solve our food and ag system if we want to, exist past 2050 and 2060 and 2070. So everyone kind of believed that, the opportunity is there for us to make this a turning point for our planet. And now it was more about convincing them that we were the right individuals to do it and that we had the right thesis in the space to be able to do it. So I think that's what made it an easier path. But it's definitely, as every entrepreneur will tell you, making any business from scratch is going to be a high level of difficulty.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I just add, you have to find the right church. And so for us, having those pre-qualified investors who we knew were interested in the space really expedited the process. And that's the same for founders too. You have to sort of go to people who get the vision, and you don't have to explain it away, because at the point where you're explaining it, it's already too late. So definitely making sure that you have the right audience is key to making the process a little bit more seamless.
Let's get a little bit more granular. How did you learn how to set up your funds? How did you educate yourself on investing? I'm assuming that wasn't part of your law school or career training prior.
Yeah, so it's a great question. For me, I kind of had a lot of that information from being at Providence, and so kind of knew a lot of those mechanics, and so was able to really sort of bring that to the fund. And then we had great mentors. So we had mentors like Chris Kerr, who's in the space, who really sort of helped us with some of those mechanics, et cetera, and gave us lessons learned. And so I would say, leaning on our own prior experience, but then also just having great mentors that you can call at any point in the day and ask them the most minute questions about different things and topics, et cetera, and have long conversations about how the best way to set something up and do. I think, it's amazing in VC, the mentors you can find that have done so well and that are looking to give back by sharing their experiences and their sort of war wounds.
Yeah, and I'll just add to the legal background did help us because a lot of investing has legal components. A lot of fund formation is about, your PPM and building out your infrastructure there. So really being able to, draft a term sheet and understand what that, means and really going deep on provisions. And even when you think about also just diligence and thinking about the IP landscape and the regulatory landscape, it's really helpful to leverage those skills. And then ultimately in law school, you learn to ask deep questions. And that's really how we really get to, a solid conclusion. And so for us, we've been able to leverage that a lot through the process.
Yeah, I can imagine that. That's very helpful. What are some of the challenges your founders are facing right now, particularly maybe in the food space, but also otherwise?
Yeah, I mean, definitely supply chain issues. And so everyone has sort of faced their challenges on the food side with sourcing or more so on the ag side, for instance, the ag tech robotics company and really getting those component parts. So really building a resilient supply chain has been front and center on everyone's mind and figuring out how to navigate it and really mitigate that risk. And then obviously, at the early stages, manufacturing is always a challenge. And so getting the right co-manufacturing partners, making sure that you have good terms for those contracts, getting space on that production line as well, seem to be issues that definitely repeat itself earlier in the process.
We have a lot of questions flooding in. I'll start asking some of them now from the audience. So one question here is, do you also investigate whether the novel ingredient is actually authorized in the targeted market? I think this is pertaining to an earlier question that I had asked.
Yeah, it's something that we definitely look into. The regulatory landscape, because we also invest in cellular agriculture and fermentation, et cetera. And so, we do have to look around and say, what is the regulatory landscape for the novel ingredient or for the cell ag or the fermentated foods, et cetera. And how do they treat GMOs? All those questions come up in our diligence. There are some technologies where, they're being developed in places where they can't sell. For example, the European market is a little bit different from a GMO perspective than the US market, as well as the Israeli market. And so for us, it's about understanding where that company wants to first go and where they see their market being initially, and then how do they see expansion outside of that market. And so for us, most of the food companies that we invest in, they do see their target market as either being a local market or they see it as the US, and then expanding outside into similar regulatory landscape countries.
Got it. How can small startups pitch to you for investment?
Yeah, a variety of mechanisms. So either, LinkedIn, we also answer cold emails directly through our site. We have a form to get folks into our diligence pipeline. And, for us, we're always on the hunt to find founders in the space, and the earlier the better, because we really like to form the relationship. But I would say, definitely feel free to reach out either through social media or directly from our website or our emails.
And I want to echo that because it's something that we take very serious, that we want to meet the entrepreneurs early. And, for us, some entrepreneurs even reach out to us and say, look, I'm not raising right now, but I just want to talk to you about what I'm building, and I'm eventually going to be raising. So why don't we start the relationship now and build now and see if we can help each other now. And we love those conversations because you can really just learn what drives a person. And you can start helping them before you even sort of become a capital partner. And so you kind of really get to know someone that way, and you really get to sort of build with them versus coming in after, things have already been built up.
I'm curious, has the pandemic sort of affected your investing strategy? Are there new technologies or developments that were caused by the pandemic that are changing how you're investing or what you're investing in?
Yeah, I think for us, it helped us actually go global, and it really sort of, we're not bound now to those borders because it's so easy to get connected to different ecosystems. We were really, tracking the Israeli ecosystem for a long time and really wanted to be able to invest there, and just got so excited about, the technologies that are coming out of Tel Aviv and other universities. And it was so much easier to actually get connected there through, just people now taking virtual meetings. So I think for us, we're excited about how things feel less sort of centralized, and really the decentralization of VC has been incredible, and just being able to get connected into orbits that we otherwise would have had to either travel to directly or just take a longer time to get into.
Yeah, I mean, that's how we're having this conversation.
Exactly.
We have a question from Nick. How do you value a startup that's pre-revenue? A dilemma me and other early stage founders are facing is that VCs need enough skin in the game, but founders aren't willing to give up 25% plus of the company for that check and guidance. Any middle ground?
Yeah, for us, when the company is a pre-seed company, we really like to work with the founder on investing on a safe note or a convertible note. We find that that's the most fair way to do it because, like Nick is saying, it's very hard to value a company with no revenues. That it's a great idea, they have great technology, maybe the R&D is semi-completed, et cetera, and they have a proof of concept. And so they're moving towards where they would be able to launch, but they need that capital. And, I agree with Nick that, you don't want to give up so much of equity of your company in those early stages because you don't know where the technology is going to go. And so for us, I think, coming to terms on a val cap with a discount that, makes it comfortable for investors as well as the founder is the best way to do that. And then kind of push down that equity valuation to the stage to where, it's a series A or it's a seed and you have more that you can go on and traditionally value that company. And then I think you actually create a better relationship with the founder. And then you all are both on the same page because nothing worse than if the investor thinks that, they're investing at a higher valuation than they should, or the founder thinks they're letting investors in at a lower valuation than they should.
You mentioned some of the technologies that you're getting excited by. Is precision fermentation one of those?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all fermentation is exciting for us. We invested in a company that's using gas fermentation, so noble nutrients to essentially harness industrial waste emissions and using microbial fermentation to convert that into proteins and other high value ingredients. And so really like the carbon capture side of it and also the utilization. But I think on the precision fermentation side, it's exciting as well because you can create everything from, animal proteins to materials. And so we really think that the, microbes, they make efficient proteins, and it takes years to grow plants or sometimes months, but they, double their biomass in 48 hours or less. And so the opportunities are endless, and we're excited about where the space is going.
Awesome. We have the founder of Chunk Foods.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're excited to hear about their journey.
Yes, we love him.
Almost. Yeah.
Yes.
Another question. After helping a company establish itself domestically, can you help them expand into the global market too? So you help with international expansion?
Yeah, absolutely. So most of our network is based out of the US, but with that said, a lot of them are, multinational corporations. And so especially abroad, certain companies, especially in food service, are looking for opportunities to really reduce their global ecological footprint. And so really looking for those sustainable companies that they can partner with. And we've seen a lot of interest there. So I think, there's more of an appetite for certain corporates for some of their non-US operations that could be really critical and great partners for early companies.
Awesome. I'm curious, what are your thoughts and feelings on equity crowdfunding, which is a way for non-accredited investors to invest in companies?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of it. I actually think, and I'm glad that you're bringing it up and that it's getting more attention now because, one of the rules that the SEC does have is that, only accredited investors can invest in to certain funds and to certain companies, et cetera. And it's something that I think is an antiquated law that should be rethought, because while you see the great parts of it, of trying to educate and protect people on how risky it is to invest into private companies, into funds, etc. You do want that to be democratized, and to have individuals that don't have so much capital or this net worth, etc. To be able to make their own decision and to educate themselves on how they want to create wealth and what they want to put their capital towards. And so from myself, I think, equity crowdfunding is great. I'm happy to see rolling funds and all the innovation that's taking place across the VC and entrepreneurial landscape. And I think, it's one of those things that, 10 years from now, I think we'll see that, the entire private equity market is completely different, and it'll be there for the better.
Awesome. I'm glad you feel that way. I also feel like that.
Yeah.
Have you worked with or looked into regenerative agriculture companies? I hope to see more regeneratively grown vegan foods, but still, it's hard to find organic vegan foods in the U.S.
Yeah, we agree. I mean, we're very excited about what regenerative agriculture can do, but have not seen a lot of, startups in the space. A lot are, more so apps that are connecting farmers to carbon markets, but we haven't seen anything sort of more tangibly connected to food from those sort of upstream marketplace solutions. So I think it's something we've been monitoring. Definitely want to get behind, but just haven't found the right opportunity yet.
Is there a certain type of company or product or industry that you're looking for more companies to invest in, where you feel like this might be an example of where there should be a little bit more innovation and you would be willing to fund?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. We have our running list. So I think for us, we're excited about it upstream to downstream, particularly when we think downstream. We think, a lot of food waste happens at restaurants. And so for us, we really look for companies that, and we haven't found one quite yet, but that are really optimizing the back office of restaurants to enhance sourcing, and also thinking about pricing so that there's more optimization from that perspective. And then I would say, outside of that, in terms of, companies in the ag space, we're excited to, support ag tech robotics. We know the labor shortage is really challenging for farmers, and it's, decreased availability is really increasing the cost on the farm. And then also there's just so much productivity gains that could be had. And so really thinking about, also the environmental footprint of, reducing the chemical usage on the farm, or really eliminating it from the robotics. So that's one area we're very excited about. And then continuing to be excited about alternative protein, upstream to downstream. And I think, for us, fermentation and cell ag are one of the areas that we're really getting interested in, and seeing that there's so much innovation, and it's sort of having its golden era at the moment. So we definitely want to continue to support those type of companies.
And the one that I'll add too is, the cold chain innovations we're really interested into as well. Obviously, from the plant-based side, you've seen that, costs can become exorbitant with sort of that cold chain distribution line. And how can we solve that problem so that more plant-based companies can go direct to consumer, and can do that from a margin perspective that makes sense for the business and for the consumer. But you've also seen that it has applications for medicine as well. When, we were first getting the Pfizer vaccine shipped out across the nation, you really couldn't, have it done quickly. And there was a lot of hiccups because of sort of it having to be at certain temperatures. And so we've seen innovations at universities leveraging microbes all the way to different technologies that would get rid of that from a packaging standpoint and be a sustainable packaging solution for the industry.
Yeah, I think one more thing I'll add is, microbiome innovations. And so I think, we all understand now how much gut health is important for, our functioning systems, as well as, our bioavailability of foods, and just the impact it has on inflammation and chronic diseases. And so I think really leveraging the advancements in the microbiome and what that can do for, human health seems like a huge opportunity as well.
So for those looking to invest in the plant-based space, what is your recommendation?
Yeah, I think for those looking to invest in the plant-based space, it's really getting plugged into the ecosystem, getting to meet founders and learning about, what opportunities there are to invest in, and moving quickly because things do move quickly in the space. So really, I think, educating themselves on the space and then really connecting directly with founders and having that relationship so that when they are raising, that you'll be, on the short list to get the call.
And I think it's about defining your why as well. A lot of the founders in this space could be doing a multitude of different things, but they've chosen to build a plant-based business or a cell ag business or a synthetic biology business. And they've done that for a specific reason, and it really matters to them. And so I think for investors, they need to know why they want to invest into this space and why they want to invest into those companies. And it has to be deeper than sort of getting that 4x, 5x return. What they need to be really being able to let founders know is what's their why and how can that why pair up with the founder's why and push them forward to increase the odds of success in that company.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'll just add, capital is abundant. And so investors really do have to figure out how they can bring value to the table because, you really do want that smart capital. And it's, both the investor and the founder are courting each other and want to make sure it's the right fit. And so really being able to help founders and being a collaborative partner will really be able to, help the investor, basically invest in the best companies because founders will really be intentional about selecting them.
Yes, the capital is abundant. Unfortunately, I feel like we could use more than we could.
Yes.
How do we get more of that abundance into the plant-based space? What do you think?
I think
there?
Yeah, I think more companies that are having successes. I think Beyond Meat really got folks excited and Oatly, and so when they see the success in the public markets, I think they get excited about really getting in early in the private market. So I think, especially for strictly financial investors, it's really seeing what the ultimate outcome would be. And I think for the folks that are interested, in sustainability, really connecting the issue between climate and biodiversity to what plant-based companies can offer as a solution more clearly, because folks are now waking up to the fact that food and ag impacts climate, but I think before most people saw it as an energy and transportation problem. So I really think connecting those dots there will get people more excited about bringing capital into the space as well.
Are you and your investors tracking Oatly and Beyond Meat as sort of a predictor for the space, or sort of, telling the narrative, or, the private markets are different than the public markets and that shouldn't be sort of the North Star?
Yeah, I would say, it's very hard because you've also seen that a lot of these companies in the public market have had, tough times. And I don't think that that's representative of the long term of those companies. And I also don't think it's an indication of how companies that will go public after them perform in the public markets. For us, it's really about, on a granular level, how are these companies doing for their customers and how are they growing that customer base and then also getting new customers. So when you start in America and then you go to the European market, how do you really learn that customer and grow that customer relationship? And then how effective are you doing that when you move to another market, the Asian market or what have you? Those sort of things are things that we track and try and see it. And, I think a lot of the companies that aren't public right now, but that are very large, so like Impossible or Upside Foods, I think you're seeing that, those founders really, really care about their customer. And they're really being very thoughtful about, how can they create that relationship and grow that relationship with their customer and their soon-to-be customers. And so for us, that's really the exciting part versus sort of tracking, what sort of the stock price of sort of the different public companies are.
Awesome. Yeah, so we're coming to the conclusion of our conversation, but I'd like to ask, we have a lot of young people, a lot of people coming out of school. We have people who are looking to maybe, change their career trajectory or found a company or start investing. How do they do that? What's your advice to them if they want to start investing in this space? Maybe more through, an institutional vehicle or a fund versus, individually. What advice do you have for somebody maybe just coming out of school?
Yeah, I think, it's good to actually start as an angel and invest individually, and really immerse, themselves in the space and understand the dynamics, really form a view on, the landscape, have a thesis, and really connect with founders and other VC folks as well. I think, really having that network and being able to tap into folks who have done it before, who understand it on a deep level, you can really learn by osmosis. And that was the case for us, that we had, amazing founders that we were connected with early on, but also founders of VC firms who have built firms from the ground up. And, some generalists, some that were sector specialists as well, to be really, able to learn those insights and things that you just can't Google or read on the internet. So I think, having that insider knowledge could really help you navigate and avoid some of the pitfalls than you would otherwise. But, starting as an angel first and then thinking about how you'd want to either build your firm or go to a firm really makes the most sense to really build that foundation.
And I would just say, it's a great job. There's nothing better than being able to pair yourself with someone and help them create their dream and move their dream to success, and then have that dream be something that, establishes impact for hundreds of millions of people.
Yes, I 100% agree. Corey, Stephanie, thank you so much for being here with us today. This is super helpful and inspiring. I hope you'll be back.
Yes.
Some emoji claps here. It looks like people really enjoyed it. What's the best way to get in touch with you? You said through the website?
Yeah, website, LinkedIn, Twitter. We actually answer cold emails too, so also by email.
Awesome. I'm going to see you backstage, and
Yes.
next we'll bring up the founder of Purple Carrot to talk about how to launch your meal kit.
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank y'all so much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.